there's all these stories about, guys over in Macedonia who are running these fake news sites.
Number 24 is Content Farms in Macedonia.
Бидејќи ако се направи грешка, таа ќе биде кобна. Нема враќање назад.
So Europe need to remain more sexy lady in the world. Ajde, majkата!
Господа ја чува Македонија и низините граѓани.
Hey, we made it to 200 episodes. That's got to count for something. Woohoo! Yes, this is an extremely niche podcast, though we are now on four platforms. We've never really been into keeping stats, but we probably have a few hundred subscribers across those platforms. We don't do this for love or for money, but first, for the education of anyone looking for news from a conservative point of view about Macedonia, and second, for a little fun, a few laughs, and because we're politically incorrect and we're often irreverent. We hope you've enjoyed listening over the years. We started doing this in November of 2018, and we'll continue doing this for as long as, well, for a while at least. And now, on with the show. We'll discuss all this and more on this episode of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast. I'm Jason Miko, coming to you from the foot of the Catalina Mountains in Oro Valley, Arizona.
And this is Cvetin Čelimanov in Skopje, Macedonia.
Cvetin, I had to go back and look on our YouTube channel. It was episode number 1, November 28, 2018.
18.
That is 18, yes. So,
already?
And I have to read the description because it dovetails nicely with the subject matter of today that we wanted to talk about. So this is what we wrote for episode number 1 on November 18, 2018. It's the first ever English language podcast on news from Macedonia. Cvetin Čelimanov and Jason Miko talk about the latest events in Macedonia, including Viktor Orban, who is not in Macedonia, Nikola Gruevski, who is in Hungary, Zoran Zaev's attempt to change Macedonia's name, identity, constitution, and everything else that makes it unique, progressive taxation, culture, and a whole host of other subjects. Enjoy 39 minutes of rank punditry. So, so it's funny because the Hungarians just had parliamentary elections the other week. You were there. Viktor Orban lost. Peter Magyar, which is the same as somebody running for the president of the United States called Johnny American, is now will be the prime minister, I guess. He's not technically yet. I think he gets sworn in early May. Nikola Gruevski still in Hungary, and I mean, first of all,
that we know of,
exactly, right? Yeah, Viktor Orban stepped aside, congratulated the incoming prime minister, didn't hold on to power like so many people ran around squeaking at the top of their lungs that he's a dictator and a Hitler and authoritarian and everything else. He graciously handed over power, and it's not like our friends on the left are all crowing saying the dictator is out, and Peter Magyar is still conservative. He comes from Fidesz. He was in the party a couple of years ago, I believe, before farming.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah, well, actually, I did notice. Well, two things. First of all, why don't we get your take on it? Tell us about the elections and your take.
Yeah, I was there actually. I was in Budapest for the elections. And yeah, it was very depressing for me getting to see all the colored revolution progress, for the second time in a much shorter, much more condensed version, but seeing all the same faces we saw in Skopje, all the young people thinking that they're achieving something, like sticking it to the authorities, to the powers that be, and meanwhile, doing the bidding of Brussels and, all the other people who congratulated Peter Magyar, like the Soros, the younger Soros, and the Clintons and Obamas, etc. But they were super happy, like going down the metro station in these now iconic images, like shouting, "Russians get out!" But then Brussels get in, like take over. So it was really. And until the last few days, the conservatives were getting out polls that showed them winning, actually, or at least having things tied. And the atmosphere was pretty good in the conservative camp until they saw the turnout numbers on the Sunday. Like, it was crazy turnout, almost 90%, like over 80% turnout. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was at this massive protest concert the Friday evening before and it was like easily several 100,000 people, like full train, metro trains going to the Hoshaktere, the horseshoe monument to the old Hungarian kings, and full trains going back. Like, so maybe 100,000 people had gone through and they were leaving, and another 100,000 were coming, like one group replacing the other. So it was really all the young people, and many told me they were not sure who to vote for, or that, as you said, Magyar is at least pretending to be conservative. So some said they would vote for Greens or protest parties. Some were too young to vote, but still you could see the crowd, and you could tell that this is going to be a massive. That Budapest, like every other urban city, is lost for the conservatives, but they had this quirk in the electoral system that there are also like proportionate system where it was clear that Magyar would win to some extent, but also there is the rural vote coming through the electoral districts where the Fidesz guys were hoping that they would win like 60-40 was their projection. Out of 200 seats, half are in the proportional model. They estimated a 20 seats cushion in the majority seats, which would have then won them, whatever Magyar wins in the proportionate vote in Budapest, they were expecting they're gonna make it up in the rural districts. In the end, it turned out that they were massively losing the rural districts, sometimes by a few thousand votes. But such was the turnout that actually the electoral system worked against them. And I think that Magyar actually built up his difference exactly in the majority seats which Fidesz were expecting will go to them. So like a massive difference in seats in parliament, even though the difference in votes is not that massive. But okay, this is the model. This is how Orban won his majorities in the past. But one other observation I made was that when they were saying he's such a dictator, they had this large gathering at a very small like square, the Batani square on the Buda side of the river of the city, and it was strange why there, because the most of the people are on the flat pest side. And there was like expectations that they're going to try and storm the prime minister's office, which is literally in a castle. Which okay, they were relatively close to this place, but they would have to go through narrow streets up the hill, which is impossible. And this was actually a speculation put out by an Orban spokesman. And at the same time, there was some left-wing group that was a techno-cultural, like. Another concert was taking place. The big one was on the Friday, but they had another one on Sunday on the much larger Kossuth Square in front of the parliament, where all the crowds can actually easily gather because there are boulevards coming, directly to the Kossuth Square. It's on three sides. It's open to the flat city, so there's no way the police could stop the crowd coming. And okay, I was talking to some, Fidesz guys before, and generally they were expecting, if things go bad, that the metro station will be cut so that the crowds could not gather so quickly. They were concerned about a Maidan-style sniper shootout. This was actually there was a lot of speculations about this, that there are Ukrainian terrorists essentially in the country, prepared to fire on the crowd if the expectation was that after a year of building up an atmosphere that the TISA is leading, and that if, because of the electoral system, Orban actually wins or is close and drags out the whole thing, that there is going to be anger in the public, and that this would be used to provoke a storming of the parliament or the prime minister's office, and it would, the darkest scenario included like actual Maidan type shooting into the crowd. And in the end, what happened, the metro was working, so the Tisa crowds could easily go from one square to the other underneath the river. There is one metro station between Batani and Kossuth. Not only this, the techno concert that was taking place, the authorities, I guess the city authorities, but the government as well, allowed them to have the stage literally put up in front of the entrance of the parliament. They were like meters away from the building. Mm-hmm. So there were thousands of people, of protesters, gathered at the square where all these dark scenarios are expected and, threatened for weeks ahead of the elections. And this dictatorial government actually allows thousands of people, we had the storming of the parliament, you had the storming. This is like the people being allowed not at the Supreme Court and then they have to go across the street and then storm the Capitol, but actually literally on the plateau at the Capitol, like literally meters away from the building, or in our case, not in the park, and then you have to go across the street and then storm the parliament, but at the door of the parliament. Mm-hmm. And this was crazy to me, as you said, Orban immediately acknowledged the outcome, even before all the votes were in. I was at the Kossuth Square when we got the news, and this diffused any potential for tensions, for incidents on either side of the river. But still, it was crazy to me that this dictator can be voted out, and that he would allow protesters at the most sensitive, sites that confer the legality of the government to, easily storm them, take them over if a situation arose. This was really completely outside of the image that was presented of Orban.
Right. And that's a good summary there. Thank you. It's good for me because I think you follow Hungarian politics closer than I do, and I'm half Hungarian. But a couple of points. Number one, so this whole idea that our friends on the left kept saying that he's like with Trump, he's a dictator, he's Hitler, etc. Although, to be fair, our friends on the left have said that about every single Republican president here, going all the way back. Maybe not Ronald Reagan, praise be upon him, but certainly from George W. Bush forward, they've said that. And when you start calling your opponents Hitler and a dictator and authoritarian, etc., that gives you, meaning our friends on the left, license to do whatever you think needs to be done to remove the quote-unquote dictator. So we've got people like, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are probably familiar with Hassan Piker, the far left Marxist Muslim podcaster here in America, nephew of Cenk Uygur, they're Turkish, who basically in the past couple of days in the mainstream media here, we'll get back on Hungary here, mainstream media here is giving him a platform to spew his vile hatred, calling for the death of Senator Rick Scott in Florida, saying it's okay to steal. This shows you what happens, again, when you start calling your enemy or your perceived enemy a dictator, an autocrat, Hitler, etc. Then you start doing all kinds of crazy things. Anyway, so he wasn't a dictator. He's not a dictator. Let's kind of move forward. So Peter Magyar, I think he's more center right than maybe perhaps you do, but only time will tell. I did note, interestingly enough, that a few days ago, within the past week, and we're recording this, episode 200 of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast, we're recording this on Friday, the 24th of April, that he took the Slovakians to task over Hungarian language rights in Slovakia. I didn't see that coming, but maybe that was part of the his campaign platform. I think it's kind of funny because my grandfather was born in present-day Slovakia, in a little town called Mizar, right outside of Kasha. and came here. Not that that has anything to do with the story, but I just find it all fascinating. And I know that Orban took the Ukrainians to task for Hungarian language rights in Ukraine. I don't know if Peter Mizar has done that yet, or if he will, or whatnot. But we'll see how he governs.
He's switching from taking Ukraine to task to Slovakia, because Slovakia was close to Orban. They tag teamed in the European Union, and as of recently triple teamed with the Czech Republic, with Babiš being elected. So basically they were, obviously the position of Hungarians in Slovakia is much better than those in Ukraine, because Hungarians in Ukraine are being recruited for the army, which is a huge issue, obviously, for Hungary, having their brethren go to fight this war. And they actually allege that Zelensky is over-recruiting them and in this aggressive recruitment tactics for a war they don't care much about, obviously. These are the ways that now Mizar is going easy on Ukraine. It's expected that he's going to allow this massive spending package for Ukraine to continue the war, while going hard on Slovakia, trying to break up this solidarity of sovereignist right-wing countries in Central Europe that Orban built.
It could be, and again, as we said earlier, he's not even the prime minister yet. He won't be sworn in until early May, so we'll see how he governs, and not just on that, on foreign policy, but domestic policy in terms of both social issues, birth rates, LGBTQ, WXYZ plus Two-Spirit, XXX, and economics. The economy in Hungary is not the best that it could be. No economy in Europe is the best it could be. So we'll see if he's a free marketer or not. What does this mean, do you think, in your opinion, for relations vis-a-vis Macedonia?
Well, we obviously had, while we were in opposition, we had substantial political help from Orban, who, not because he exclusively or, especially supports Macedonia, as Bulgaria would often complain that they would say that Hungary is giving us our biggest, European level support. Hungarian members of European Parliament voted with us over the last year's European Parliament progress report, which Bulgaria really took offense to. But he would gather conservative parties from all over Europe. And naturally in Macedonia this meant, cooperating with Vimera.
Right.
And we did not have other such supporters. Obviously, Nikola Gruevski received much deserved political asylum there. A number of media outlets in Macedonia had some support from Hungarian businessmen. They helped us out in the long 7 years of opposition. Now, obviously, this is not going to be the case going forward. Mizar, he wants to arrest several Polish opposition officials who also face persecution under the very similar Donald Tusk regime in Poland, like this nominally conservative party, but actually fully aligned with Brussels. And in DC, it would be the Anne Applebaums and the neocon / liberal regime in the U.S. So I expect this is going to be the Mizar formula as well, that make some right-wing noises on migration or minority rights, but be fully aligned with the Obamas, the Clintons, the Soroses. Fortunately, we do not need any type of assistance. Actually, we should be lending assistance in return to the conservative movement that Orban built, which is substantial, includes several countries in Central Europe. Slovenia is fast joining this movement. The biggest party in Germany, which is banned from ever winning power, but closely aligned with him, and also the biggest party in Austria. In Poland, actually, he has the presidency, which The president is an Orban affiliated guy, so Nawrocki. So, it's not the end of the world for this movement. They're looking out for Le Pen next year, in a year time, and Italy was not fully aligned, but still, has a conservative government. Not to mention the U.S. The J.D. Vance visit before the elections, and the what was expected to be a role that Trump will play in European politics, and hopefully J.D. will play in the years to come, hopefully as president. So it's a massive movement that Orban, to a large extent, built and kept alive, and that could still turn out to be very successful. But also now, after 16 years of him being in power, obviously, a lot of people were fed up with him, and that's very natural. Mm-hmm. We personally had a good relationship through, includes also in the Balkans, Serbia and Republika Srpska in Bosnia. So now we can expect that, at least this is what Filipče is saying in Macedonia, that now the dominoes are going to start falling, because now he imagines that Orban was still keeping in some way VMRO in power, that he helped them win, and that he brainwashed Macedonians to care about, the humiliations of the SDS, of the Zaev era, and that otherwise people would not have cared about all the failures of the SDSM government. So now they think that somehow a relatively, very young VMRO government is going to, the people are going to turn against it, like they did after 16 years of Orban. But Filipče was having high hopes from the U.S. that the U.S. is going to come under Trump and start arresting people in Macedonia. He had, what was another thing? He gets these crazy ideas from time to time that how things are going to work out, and this is the latest way to motivate his few remaining supporters.
My understanding, Filipče is he a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon or
brain surgeon?
Yeah, and I understand he's pretty good at it, and he should stick to that. Yeah. He should stick to that and do nothing else. It's kind of weird. I think all these doctors that try and get involved in politics. Remember Howard Dean here in America? Was the front runner for the Democratic nominee for president in 2008 or something. He flamed out. I mean, there's a lot of doctors that think they can go into politics and be successful, and they're not. And I mean, Filipče is a failure as a politician, certainly. And Zaev that runs the party. I understand Zaev was just back in Macedonia recently for the party Congress or something, and outshined Filipče, which is no surprise there. And Filipče's grasping at straws, I think, because his party under his leadership is in such disarray and is so humiliated, and so he's crowing about this and thinking the dominoes, as you said, are going to fall, and well, no, that's not the way life works. It ebbs and it flows and whatnot, but this isn't the start of something, a left wave, if you will, a blue wave, if you will, across Europe or America. But we'll see. I mean, Orban, I've seen a few statements of him since the election. He says he's not going anywhere. And he's what, in his 50s or early 60s, I think? So he's not old.
60s for sure.
Sorry?
Well, he's been prime minister for 20 years.
20 years, 4 years and then 16, so...
it is a little much.
As you mentioned, yes. I wouldn't want any single president to be president for 16 years. I mean, that's just human nature. You get tired. You need fresh ideas, and I think if we can offer a little criticism, if I can offer a little criticism of Orban, it's that he probably should have been, preparing somebody else to take his place in the meantime, instead of not having a plan, which is what it seems to have happened. And again, that's human nature. You get used to being in power, and so anyway. But that's on behind. As he said, I mentioned a few statements I've seen. He's not going anywhere. He's going to try and figure out, what happened and see how we keep this movement together, etc. And I imagine that the Hungarian CPAC will continue, and the Danube Institute. No, you don't think so?
No, for sure. I mean, listen,
His party can
the
still
criticism. No, the very ridiculous criticism of Orban was that he was using public funding to support conservative causes, which is, rich coming from the Clintons and the Soroses and the Obamas, which literally subverted US aid entirely to exporting colored revolutions across the world and, using public funding for promoting far left causes, even to the point like, okay, it's illegal for Hungarian businessmen to support causes they support, like they like, coming from the Soros crowd, that a Hungarian businessman shouldn't be exporting ideological positions to other countries. It's really ridiculous. But yeah, he was using public funding. For example, one of the biggest organizations, the MCC, the Matthias Corvinus Collegium, was given shares in some of the biggest companies in largely publicly owned companies in Hungary. So Magyar is immediately threatening these organizations. So in one case, he demanded that the MOL, the oil company, does not pay out its dividends to the, pay out the dividends to all the shareholders, but not to this conservative educational public institution open to everybody, like not declaredly conservative. It's as conservative as like a public university in the US, or all public administration and all universities in the US are left wing. They're not declared as such, they're open to everybody, but they're obviously political, ideological parties and tools of the left. So Orban was copying the same model with NGOs supported by the government, and the people attacking him are not attacking him on principle because they do the same times a million. They're attacking him because he was doing their script, but doing it for the other side, for the conservative side. And now, we can expect, like in Poland, mass arrests, politically motivated charges against conservative outlets. They're definitely going to destroy all the conservative outlets and institutions that Orban built.
Well,
that's a given.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not, and we'll see. But there's only one way to tell, because that's in the future. So,
no, it's sure, it's certain.
Okay, we'll watch the space then. All right.
Even though Magyar had attended CPACs, I might have drank coffee with him years back because he was in the party until 2 years ago.
Right.
But he was a European Parliament member. He was obviously recruited well in Brussels, very likely by this fully partisan American ambassador who was there under Obama pressman, and groomed by this flamboyant homosexual ambassador. They essentially recruited a person from Orban's party to go against him. And this is even funny for Filipče. So the model is not we beat the conservatives with a left-wing party. The model for Macedonia would be that tremendous investment is made, that people in Vimmer are found, and this was actually tried by our American ambassadors, by Bailey and etc., to recruit people in Vimmer against Gruevski, so that somebody from the inside rebels against the party, alleges some kind of abuses on the part of the party, and then copies all its talking points, except that I'm a fresh face, but it also works better after 16 years in power. So, it's nothing is lining up in this model for Filipče, but
as we mentioned earlier, I think Filipče is a failure as a political leader. He's not long for this position. Let's tack slightly over to the Bulgarian elections, because I think that affects Macedonia as well. And so we just had the 8th round of Bulgarian elections in 5 years, because they just can't seem to get their act together. And this time, though, might be different. Rumen Radev, the president of Bulgaria, stepped down, I believe, in January to form his own party, the name of which escapes me.
Progressive Bulgaria.
Progressive Bulgaria. Oh, yes. Nice ring.
Yep.
Nice ring to it. Progressive Bulgaria. So his party won bigly, and I don't know if they have a majority or not. I haven't looked recently, but they do? Okay. So this obviously, Rumen Radev is a hardliner when it comes to Macedonia. On the whole issue of the left crowing that Orban is out, and Orban was at cross purposes with the EU and others on the issue of Ukraine, of course. Rumen Radev is no real friend of Ukraine, I don't think, and it's rumored that he's kind of more in Russia's orbit than anybody else in Ukraine. And then again, his position on I think he's a hardliner on Macedonia. So what can we expect there? I know that Prime Minister Mizar has reached out to Radev, but what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we'll see. I'm assuming that his hardline position was electoral. He was obviously keeping an eye on this election and switching from the president's office, which is not very important, to the prime minister's office, and that they all assume that the Macedonia issue somehow helps them a lot, even though there wasn't much evidence to this. The parties which pushed it the hardest did pretty badly. He did vacuum all the nationalist votes, all the pro-Russian nationalist votes, and a lot of the votes from his former party, the Socialist Party of Bulgaria, and apparently a lot of votes from GERB, from the the People's Popular, kind of conservative party, because he is like Mizar, coming out as, even though the party is called Progressive Bulgaria, he's coming out as socially conservative, nationally conservative, tough guy like Borisov, looks kind of like him. So, just
close-shaved head,
slightly younger, and fighter pilot.
Fighter. I mean, that's not nothing. Got to give him that. So he came out. Apparently, he came out against Bulgaria's adoption of the euro. So on his economic policies, I'll be interested to see where he takes that. I don't know. I think his reasoning back when he did was that it would increase prices, which it did.
I think he had on the one hand, on the other hand position, slightly opposed. He didn't block it as president. I don't know if he could have. I remember somebody criticizing him over making the signal, but not following up on it, and definitely won't follow up now after his election. He will definitely not.
Too late. I mean, Bulgaria adopted the euro on January 1, so we're not going to put that rabbit back in.
For sure. But
it'll be.
We can
Go ahead.
Yeah, we can maybe expect him to do something like this with Macedonia. Like, okay, hardline, but okay, now I'm elected. He's of the position that Ukraine should not join the EU. And now the larger EU countries, which actually don't want Ukraine to join, are in desperate need of another Orban who would do this, who would block it. So maybe he picks up the role. But he also has said that we need to focus more on the Balkans. This is why we shouldn't include Ukraine, not because I'm pro-Russian or I like Russia, but then this clashes with the fact that Bulgaria is blocking Macedonia for EU membership. So possibly this is some opening that if he assumes the role of the guy who blocks Ukraine, but he also tries to make up for it by, lifting the blockade on Macedonia. Unlikely that one small, poor European Union country can block two countries, especially Ukraine, being one of them. There's also the possibility, like in all the power grab that the EU is announcing after Orban fell, one is that they're going to, push gay propaganda on Hungarian children, etc. Another one is that now is the time that we abolish the full unanimity vote in the EU. Because, they assume that now Mizar will not use it against Ukraine like Orban did. But also they assume, maybe some other country rises up tomorrow, Poland, France even though it's crazy that Brussels would, use unanimity, override a negative position from France to, admit countries or push foreign policy decisions, but they might under Le Pen. So on one hand, they don't need to desperately to do this, to remove the veto power in the EU. On the other hand, now they can, so they might figure, okay, let's just do this while we can, while we have this liberal moment. And in this case, we could be the unexpected winners of this if
that
Brussels
happens.
abolishes
Right.
the veto.
Well, although, if I'm wrong, correct me, but in order to remove the unanimity provision, you have to have a unanimous decision to remove it, correct?
Yeah.
So,
But who would block it at this moment?
That's-
Like they
it's
can
kind-
intimidate.
it's kinda like the US Congress
Slovakia and Czechia.
yeah, it's kind of like the U.S. Congress voting term limits on itself.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, okay. Well, we'll see. Who knows? That's beyond my pay grade. But yeah, it's. I mean, I think it's. I think it's necessary because you're never. And then this is the thing that Macedonia's been facing since it qualified for the EU in 2005, as well as NATO. It's been blocked by its neighbors over bilateral issues, which aren't supposed to have any role in ascension to these bodies. So, but anyway, right. What else?
Well, it's quite enough. Like
That's
we
quite
lost
enough, yeah.
our European
Yeah.
capital of conservatism. What else?
Well, let's close with this because I'm looking at the clock and I got to get to the office. Here we are, 200 podcasts later. We never thought that we would. I don't know. This was your idea. I credit you, Sven, with the idea of doing the podcast in the first place. And I'm glad you did. And here we are at 200 episodes. And I know that there have been a number of people who have slicker, more polished podcasts on the Balkans, looking at it from a political standpoint, which is kind of the way we do mostly. Well, we talk about other subjects sometimes. And they've started off, and then they just kind of flop. What's the guy's name from Bosnia who lives in America? Jasmine. The girls. He's got the girl's name. He started off with the one called Sarajevo Calling, and I had to go back and look the other day just to see. I think they did about 5 episodes, and the last one was in the year 2000. So nice intentions, but oh well. But we've had fun. We had fun. We do have fun. It's we don't always agree, and that's fine. No need for that. But I think on the major things, on the conservative project writ large, although different countries conserve different things, we agree. And my own position on Macedonia is that I wholeheartedly support Macedonia in many ways, and have done over the almost 30 years that I've been involved in the country. And so I hope we can. I hope we'll continue to do this. I think we will. We don't have a lot of. I don't know how many subscribers we have. I think I said a few hundred across the 4 platforms. So we're on Rumble, YouTube, Substack, and Spotify. Interestingly enough, so wherever you prefer to listen to your podcasts, you've got those 4 platforms, and hopefully we educate folks a little bit and allow folks to have a little bit of fun and laugh with us, laugh at us. And we'll just continue to do this. So as long as we can.
Yeah, we'll have to. If we stop it now, it's going to look like we were funded by Orban and that we lost our funding. So. All the
that's good. That's very good. I'm still waiting for my paycheck from him. He seems to have misdirected it to some other bank. I've never received one.
Waiting now.
So, that's funny. No, we don't do this for love or money or sponsorship or anything like that, unlike some of these others, and that's fine. We do this because we do this because we give a damn. That's why. So, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is it has to be done.
Yeah, it has to be done. I like that. It
Oh.
That should be one of our taglines. It has to be done.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Let's. So, by the way, when does Radev become prime minister? Is that same thing, a delayed thing, or is he already
sure.
there?
Should be soon. I don't know. Should be quickly.
Yeah.
The president is his former vice president. She was elevated into president. She's the one who gives the mandate.
She's the acting president now.
Yeah. And then they will have another election, I think, soon to replace her or re-elect her. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think.
Well, let's.
I think very quickly.
Yeah. Let's use that, the ascension of. So those two, Rumen Radev becoming prime minister there, Peter Magyar becoming prime minister in Hungary. Maybe that's kind of it's because it's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. We can reconvene, and see where
absolutely.
we're going. Great.
Well,
hey,
number
great
200, huh? Yeah.
200. Yeah, we made it. So.
Yeah.
201. Here we come.
Absolutely. Take care, buddy.
All right, man. You too.
Bye.